Thanks. It's really hard to beat this introduction. So, and also what happened before, but I'll do my best to try. I arrived yesterday from New York, and the newsletter is not just about marketing, it's about the business and about sociology, where they intersect in terms of human behavior and how we design our environments and how social influence spreads and so on in case of interest. Here I'm going to talk about Web3 in the broadest possible sense, but mostly from the perspective of brand strategy and business strategy, and then also externalities in a sense, economic, social externalities, cultural externalities, psychological. So science fiction writer Frederick Paul said, the real good science fiction story predicts not just a car, but a traffic jam. Which means, let's not focus on technological innovation, let's focus on everything else that happens around it. And in that sense, I'm going to explore here 3 scenarios, and those scenarios are not in this particular order. How does Web3, which is basically the new model of the internet, powered by blockchain technology, is that a new form of monetization? Is that a new way of organizing? Or is it get-rich-quick scheme? It's probably all 3 in some degree. So in that sense, the 3 layers that I'm looking at here. The first one is digital products. The second one is hybrid products. And the third one is distributed ownership. So when it comes to virtual products, those are the products like NFTs, non-fungible tokens and image connected with the blockchain. There are Fortnite skins, there are Roblox avatars, there are land in Decentraland. The benefits of digital products is that brands have full control over them. So if Ralph Lauren creates ski jackets in Decentraland, there was a Metaverse Fashion Week, I don't know if any of you visited it, but it's pretty much, it was very clunky situation, very glitchy, but at the same time you can see the potential going forward. They were like, Philipp Plein, the luxury fashion brand, they built the entire complex. Again, Ralph Lauren created virtual jackets. The Gucci created Roblox garden in a completely different environment. So that is the benefit, full control. But the downside is the lack of interoperability. So when you create something in Roblox, it exists only in Roblox. If you create something in Fortnite, it exists only in Fortnite. So the use case scenarios there are very limited. So brands can say, hey, we have this amazing initiative. That initiative lives as long as there is marketing and promotion behind it. It doesn't have a long legs in terms of how do you monetize those NFTs? How do you take them from your marketing team and your PR team and make it part of your entire value chain of your company? That is the first downside. The benefit that also comes from that downside and full control is that you can get a lot of customer information. What does that mean? That means like creating digital products is cheaper than creating physical products. And creating a lot of like, hey, if I'm Nike, I'm going to create 5 different types of sneakers and see which ones are going to be more popular. Rather than predicting demand in that way, a company like Nike can create different versions of sneakers, see which ones get the most reaction very quickly, and then physically produce those. So the benefits for reducing overproduction are immense in that regard, as is the potential. So that is as far as digital products go. When it comes to hybrid products, those are the products that connect a physical item like this sweater through smart contract with information on the blockchain. So on the blockchain, there can be recorded where this sweater has been made, who made it, who owned it before me. For example, was that supply chain, clean supply chain, where those created from sustainable farms and so on. So all sorts of information are recorded. That information turns this sweater into collectible because there is authentication. Only that particular information exists for this particular product. That's number one. And then it's uniqueness of ownership. that is immutable going forward. So there are already a lot of scenarios that brands are applying in this realm. They are recording experiences. Like, for example, NBA Top Shot has on cards, trading cards, recorded the most famous dunks of the past 20 years together with the team information, with the time, with the colors of the teams and so on. Adidas also records attendance to the events. If you're there, proof of attendance is one that is connected with different rewards and ownership. Coach, for example, also created a special 2021 holiday collection with a limited number of NFTs that were connected with unique bags. Starbucks Odyssey is a new program that's been launched two weeks ago. It's the first brand that connected their loyalty program with NFTs. And this is the first move going beyond just having digital products into bringing something that has to do with experiences and that has to do with tangible rewards that are already part of the existing loyalty program. So these are the Coach figurines that were sold. And there are other examples, like a company called Anybody's. They have limited edition hoodies that are connected with the special NFTs and redeemable through that. So the ways to connect physical world with the digital world has multiple benefits. The first benefit is verifiable ownership. So that bag or that sweater or that watch has immutable information about where is it produced, by whom. That opens up the entire new secondary marketplace. Right now, authentication is costly and clunky and human-based and takes a long time. This will take that time. The shortest authentication is maybe 24 to 48 hours on secondary marketplace platforms, and that is very, very, very rare and applied only to like luxury items like watches and jewelry, and relies on human experts. This will take that time out of it completely. It also opens up secondary marketplace for luxury brands who are very reluctant to enter resale marketplace because of the fear of counterfeiting and lack of authentication. So imagine if Chanel had each bag has its own unique number. Every time it's resold, records all previous owners, it records when it has been produced. That may wipe counterfeiting until it catches up with it. So that is benefit number one. Benefit number two is community creation and membership that is based on hyper-personalization. One size fits one. Starbucks membership rewards know exactly how often you drink coffee, what kind of flavors, what kind of sizes, and tailors the rewards. So now we don't have membership programs that have tiers. You have 100 points, 200, 500. No, membership is tiered completely to you. And then where community comes in is like everyone who has access to the same data can share the data and connect through the data and be recognized as a niche community or a taste community through that. The downsides that you're seeing on this screen are there is a giant still energy cost, environmental cost of recording information on the blockchain. It's something like $40 billion in carbon monoxide emissions created from this. So that is something that I've seen has been moving in terms of Ethereum reducing those costs, so hopefully that is a likely scenario where we are going. The third way how Web3 transforms our current organizations and economic models and business models is through distributed ownership. So to me, this one is the most interesting, but also the further out. So how our current economic system works to a large degree is that one item is owned by one person. So if you imagine that one item can be owned by multiple people, then in order to avoid kibbutz situation, you have recorded membership for each of the persons who are owning a group, what is their percentage of ownership, and what exactly are their proceeds when that is sold out. So imagine a scenario when a group of friends own a Chanel bag or piece of jewelry or a watch. So no one wants to wear that all the time. But say whoever put in a certain amount of money, they get to wear it first, preferential ownership, or to get to own it for the longest time, to wear it for the longest time. Once that investment asset is sold, you get the proceeds from that. So this is the potential of that distributed ownership. So right now, that's still nascent, that's still not happening widely, but there are platforms like Otis, for example, that trade in cultural goods. So what they say, what their tagline is invest in culture. So what does that mean? That means you may not have money to buy pair of Air Jordan sneakers that Michael Jordan wore when he dunked in 1984. But what you can do, you can own a fraction of it. You can own a percentage of it. So whenever that is sold, you get a proceed. You can also invest your share. You can break your share down, you can sell it, you can trade it, and so on. So there is like another completely new marketplace opened up based on the fractional ownership. So that is one scenario. The other scenario that right now exists in China, in certain startups, is basically shared shopping cart. So imagine if you have an option to buy something as individual, or you have option to buy as a group. So as an individual, you have a certain price and you pay for it. As a group, you say, hey, I want to join this group that is buying this, and the price is going to dump if there is 10 of us. So I'm going to recruit my friends, and we are going to form a group, or I'm going to join an existing group, and then we are going to get preferential price. So that exists right now. Pindodo in China uses that to buy CPG goods, fruit, food, and so on in gigantic quantities. So what is important here is really gamification of shopping. Like when you think of shopping cart and a customer journey, it was second to last step. You add to the cart and you purchase. What if you use this shopping cart to unlock community building, gamification? We have 24 hours to group 10 people, 50 people in order to price to drop. That completely changes the ratio between supply and demand and the way we are approaching buying things. Like I would love in a scenario, oh, I want to buy some luxury item, and I'm like, oh, that's a little steep. Next season it's going to be out of like, let me get 3 of my friends, we're going to get that, we're going to wear it, and then we're going to resell it. That extends the life of things incredibly, because it's not based on singular consumption. It's based on sharing that is powered by exact information, who owns what and for how long and how much they paid and how much they get. The other option here is to invest and support artists or musicians that you really believe in. And that, in that sense, creates a new scenario for brands. Imagine if as a brand, you were not just if you're a Nike, you don't own that 100%. Imagine like Patagonia, what happened in Patagonia right now when the owner was like, you know what, I'm giving away the company to the earth. So this is sort of a scenario when you really have multiple owners. So that is scary for brands to think about right now. It's like giving up their business control, giving up their shareholder value. But it may be the future, because you, as a fan of Patagonia or Nike, you own a percentage of that company. But you not only own a percentage of that company like a shareholder, you also have a say in what is happening. So again, brands are not doing that right now, but we do have a model in a company, Friends with Benefits, which define itself as a headless media brand community, where you have different tiers of people who are participating, who have different access based on the value of the token they hold. So they can invest together, they make decisions together, they choose what the business path for the company is together. It's also a rare marketplace, it's similar like that. If your community engagement is high enough, you get to choose who is which artists to bring on the platform. So their decision making is probably the next step in terms of corporate governance, social governance, and we yet have to see how is that going to pan out. But the main barrier of participation is basically removed because everything is immutable and recorded. So at the end, for me, the one important thing is, when thinking about different scenarios, it's of how to use Web3. Actually, there are two things. The first thing is, don't say, hey, what Web3 thing shall I build? Rather say, what is my problem? What is my business problem? What is my brand problem? And how can I use this new technology to solve it? Because there are challenges as well as opportunities. The biggest one is basically, do you have the right talent? What is the right talent? Do you have the right talent? Who is going to implement this beyond hiring someone who is going to do just a PR NFT drop and one and done and be done with it? Because again, there are environmental costs associated with it. And then the second question is really, how do I create my organization to reflect more the underlying principles of this new technology, which is the hybrid products, which is that distributed ownership. So your merchandising, your marketing, your supply, your distribution, your entire value chain needs to reconfigure, to work together in order to deliver distributed ownership and in order to be able to create the hybrid products. And then think about your customer service. I don't even know what Starbucks did to amplify their customer service in a sense that if every action is recorded on the blockchain, someone needs to monitor that. For that, the entire personalization at scale, you need to redefine how you operate right now and which technologies you use right now. So I'm going to leave you with a story. So 1% rule is the rule that head of a British cycling team, David Braceford, invented. So British cycling team didn't win a single golden medal since the 60s. It was possible, but it hasn't been done in more than 50 years. So this was the year 2012, Olympic Games were coming, and the Tour de France, and so on. So rather than being discouraged, Sir Braceford was like, okay, I'm going to change everything that goes into riding a bike by just 1%. So the weight of the tires, the ergonomics of the bike seat, the pillows that cyclists slept on, the basically gel used for the massages, the nutrition of the riders, he changed everything just by 1%. By aggregating all those marginal gains, by putting them together, he managed to make a big difference. British cycling team won something like, I don't know, 9 gold medals, they won Tour de France, and then established new way of doing things. So for organizations, the good idea is not to think about, okay, rip the Band-Aid. It's not going to happen overnight. The change, the implementation of Web3 principles, the behavioral change, the attitudes. It's not going to happen overnight. But when you approach it of changing something just by 1% and aggregating those marginal gains, there are bigger benefits down the proverbial cycling road. So that is number one, 1% rule. The second one, think strategically about Web3 and connect it with your corporate goals, with your growth goals, with your brand goals. Ask, how does it fit what I'm doing right now? How can I change something 1% in order to deliver results that are going to be something that I can think of as experiments that turn into strategy? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Anna.
No,
whoa. We have a little...
No, I'm just going to put this.
Okay.
Don't worry.
Heart attack. We've got a little
How
bit
can I not be photographed with this outfit?
Come on, this is spectacular.
Oh my God, there's no iron in my hotel room. But anyway,
okay.
don't.
All right, Web3, we'll fix that. We'll get some sort of...
Exactly, just like put some.
Exactly. Listen, for me, like one of the things that jumped out for me is we live right now in the middle of a kind of global crisis, not just environmental. There's a cost of living crisis, a massive inequality. we, of course, zoomed in on the potential for Web3 to impact marketing. But are there tools like maybe built into Web3 that can kind of mitigate the way people use it so that it can be a kind of a level playing field and more inclusive and respectful to social justice?
I do believe that in that distributed ownership scenario, it is like instead of having a land grab, which always turns like distributed ownership before, it was like communism. It always turns out someone benefits, it's human nature. So how can you outweigh that human nature, that someone wants to grab more than others, is that is recorded on the blockchain how much you own. So you own 5% of a car, for example. You get to use it 5 days in a month or 5 days in 12 months, and you get 50 in a row to use it. That's just an example. So I do think that there are benefits of having shared economy that overcomes the pitfalls.
Yeah. But that still requires a more woke, if you like, entrepreneur or board of a company to say, this is the direction we want to go.
I mean, yes, but also it really requires not thinking about technology and saying, hey, this is like something for rich people or something fancy, but saying, hey, no, actually this provides me, I can use this as an opportunity to solve this problem by recording everything on the blockchain, because that, I said, that does cost much in terms of energy and in terms of talent, but at the same time, in terms of it needs investment in terms of mental focus and priorities if you know exactly what problem you're solving. Does that make sense?
Yeah, a little bit.
You know what I mean? It's kind of if you're a government and say, hey, we have giant poverty, but we have all those resources, let's distribute those resources between people, but let's prevent civil war.
Then we do start, I mean, how much is the Web3 community open to like regulation? That's,
That's always the thing.
Exactly.
However, right now you're approaching it completely legitimately from the perspective of right now.
Yeah.
When you have those Web3 communities that are like either gamers or nerds or those opportunities who are like minting tokens, but you're not approaching as organizational principles. So you would say as a government, for example, in Miami, the government of Miami, they're like, oh, we are accepting blockchain as a payment. So you can say whatever you will about that, but at least that's an experiment that is going to turn into strategy. So the challenge is to take it from where we are today, from those isolated crypto communities, get rich quick, and normalize it in a sense, this is a legitimate organizational tool.
Right, so we need to embrace it even more. Okay, thank you. Unfortunately, that's all we've got time for right now, but you will be, Anna is available later on. I'll tell you exactly when shortly. First of all, a massive round of applause, please, for Anna.
Thank you.